I appreciate the witnesses. Here's the thing. We all, Republicans and Democrats, understand the importance of infrastructure, and we all want to make the necessary and appropriate investments. I think we could also probably come to some common definition of what is infrastructure, but I think therein lies a big sticking point for us to move forward as a country and in a bipartisan way. I think when you talk about the technology infrastructure, you talk about energy infrastructure, transportation, obviously. I think those are core to what the investments we need to make. But we have to be very targeted and very judicious in prioritizing anything that costs money these days at $30 trillion in debt and counting. And so, but the problem is my colleagues, I know, who are well-intentioned in many ways and want to do infrastructure like I do, and Republicans, but to go beyond the infrastructure as traditionally defined, and as we've discussed in some part, to go into Medicaid and housing assistance and $100 billion for schools and additional funding there, Department of Commerce, $50 billion, climate science, $35 billion, $10 billion for a new civilian climate corps. Those are non-starters. We're never going to get down the road to any meaningful investment in infrastructure that way. So I assume when you're talking about, as the port authorities, especially on the call, when you talk about capital investment, that's a significant investment. And you all, unlike the government, where we can borrow and go into debt upwards of 100% of our output of our total economy, you have to make trade-offs. You have to make decisions about where you're going to put the money to give the greatest return for your stakeholders. Can you tell me, Mr. Anderson, that process, just to help guide us? What are the metrics that guide your capital investments that might be a good framework for us about building out and modernizing America's infrastructure? Just an example.
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. Bottom line is our ports, our nation's ports, are economic developers, and we're focused on job creation and returning contributions to local, state, and federal taxes by our investments. And we match our dollars with federal and state dollars to develop infrastructure that serves the public and to bring hopefully good jobs to our communities. Your Texas ports and all of our ports around the country are very, very good at investing the dollars that the federal government gives to us to get return on investment in these areas. And
Mr.
Yes,
if I might ask, with the Medicaid expansion of $400 billion as part of the proposal, which is 4 times the amount for roads and bridges, and the list that I gave earlier, and then the tax that's being proposed, the tax hike to pay for it, and which is going to make us less competitive and push jobs and companies to re-domicile, as we saw prior to the tax cuts, overseas. Is that a concern in terms of focusing on infrastructure, targeting, prioritizing, so that we don't have to lose that competitive edge, the cost, surpass everybody, ports, consumers, and again, hurting our ability to compete and produce and push out more product flow?
Well, yeah, Congressman, our American Association of Port Authorities, we submitted a letter for the record earlier in the hearing, which outlines our positions on this and where we need those investments. And how this bill or whatever bill is passed, I'll leave that to the members of the committee and members of Congress. We are going to try and give you guidance on what our industry needs to be competitive with the world, and we're getting outcompeted by our competitors, particularly in Asia. And every dollar that it gets appropriated through whatever bill it is, we're gonna to the ports. We're gonna invest that in America's future.
certainly isn't going to help to have a higher tax rate than communist China and other competitors. And I think that's the balance we've got to strike. We've got to be focused on what will give us the greatest return and growth and jobs, and